Nobody on the face of the earth tried harder to like this movie than me. In fact, just the other day when I was talking about its initial Rotten Tomatoes score, I said I didn't see any way I would ever give this a Rotten Tomato because I felt the actors were just doing too good a job from the trailers, and I liked certain elements of it. So imagine my surprise as the movie unfolded before me, and I realized much, I was just so disappointed about it, but that there was no way that I could not give this a Rotten Tomato. I just have too many problems with it taste-wise. I'm gonna give this a very fair review. But I don't want to fight with anybody. So here's the compromise I'll make with you guys. I've decided not to give this film a tomato at all because my Rotten Tomato would not change the score that much, and it's just not worth the headache of being one of the only handful of negative reviews. And I don't want to give thought to the narrative that some people have come up with, which is ridiculous, that I have like a personal vendetta against this movie. I honestly don't care. So enjoy your high score. I don't want to take that away from you. I don't want to rain on anyone's parade, but I do feel that I have a responsibility to point out that this parade, I believe, appeals to a smaller group than Warner Brothers and the initial Rotten Tomatoes score would lead everyone to believe. I thought I was going to love this movie based on that high RT score. I thought it was going to be amazing. I was telling people to go see it. I'm going to watch it again with you in the watch along. Maybe now that I know what's coming, that'll make it a little bit more digestible. And there are really good moments in it that I'm excited to see again. But I am curious to see just exactly how many people love this movie. One of you in the UK, where this movie opened last Friday, DM'd me the other day. And, nobody wants to talk about this publicly because so many people want this movie to succeed, which is cool. Again, that's awesome. Have your day in the sun. Enjoy it. But it means that I think a lot of people who maybe don't care for the movie are probably just going to keep it to themselves. So this person told me that at the movie theater where they work, a lot of people have been walking out. And I was like, what? I got that DM before I saw the movie. And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, the trailers, they look pretty good, right? I haven't loved them, but I thought they had nice moments. I was intrigued by the high RT score like the rest of you. And I was kind of coming around on the movie. I was really liking the posters. I was like, you know what? This might be a fun ride after all. But then while watching the actual movie, I was like, yeah, I could see how people could walk out on this. I could definitely see it. I still think that the film will do incredibly well on HBO Max. It's very hard for me to walk out on a movie. I believe I've maybe walked out on one or two movies, but other people will walk out on movies. So I think you have to understand the type of person that's being described here. It's not going to be a hardcore fan. A hardcore fan's going to want to see this through to the end no matter what. They want to know exactly what, you just see how it ends, see the whole thing. But there are other people who are more willing to do that, more casual fans. And so I think that might be that demographic. But anyway, as I said, I still think this film will do very well on HBO Max. I think, in fact, it's designed to do incredibly well on HBO Max. Partially, well, I think actually especially, because you can screenshot stills and scenes from the movie and share them on social media. For instance, I am fairly confident that John Cena's bulge and tighty whities will trend because it leaves absolutely nothing to the imagination. Some of you, I tweeted about this, and some of you said, oh, look at John Cena in these tight pants. And I was like, you ain't seen nothing yet, especially because the camera gets right in there. And I saw it in IMAX. It was a little bit like how with Watchmen, the movie, everyone just focused. It became the blue junk movie. But because I think it was handled better in the television show, that was not the focal point of, even though they still had the full frontal nudity there, it was, I think, done much better and therefore was received much better. We'll see. I'm sure that people will snapshot that and share it all over social media. The movie is full of record-scratching moments. That's how I would describe it, including full frontal nudity, male and female. Just topless women, because of course it does. At one point in the movie, they have to go to a female, a gentleman's club, let's say. very crude discussions. Like, here's an example. At one point, a character says he would love a rat up his butt. So that's just a sampling of the dialogue. Over-the-top gore. I actually had to look away several times because at a point you started to realize when it was coming, and I was like, I don't want to see that. So I would look away a couple of times. Tons of innocent people killed. I'm surprised that more people aren't making a comment about that, especially because almost all of them, I'd say 99%, are impoverished people of color who have no agency in their lives within the film. And I think they correlate with people in real life who have no agency, and that's a problem. And also, they certainly have no agency as characters in the film. They're all secondary or extras. They don't even have the benefit of having lines, and for the most part. And there's no repercussions for their murders. They're like, oh, it's crazy, this is our bad. And you're like, you just murdered all those people. Human torture. So, wow, some of that stuff I will not unsee. Animal cruelty. That was the one that surprised me. I did not need to know what birds screaming sounded like, but I do now. Political commentary, which I thought was sloppily handled, and some lead characters doing shockingly reprehensible things. So I think people are going to talk about this movie, which of course will benefit it on social media. And quite frankly, if you find some of these things offensive, as I did, I don't think you're going to want to talk. You're not going to want to join the conversation. You're not going to argue about it. There's nothing to argue about. You're like, you know what? Just not for me. So I do feel that the majority of the conversation will be positive. I'm just curious to see what the breakdown is. I'm very curious to see what the audience scores are theatrically, like the cinema score. I suspect the RT audience score will be I'm not sure, maybe in the 80s. And then I'm very curious to see what the box office looks like, not only opening weekend, but what those second and third weekend drops look like. This really boils down to a matter of taste. In a moment, I'm going to talk about how well the film is made. It's very well made. And what your threshold is for questionable behavior, and how serious you take the topics at hand. For instance, some people might feel that the movie deserves credit just for bringing these things up. And it just, it hints at the wider discussions that these serious topics imply. But others, like myself, might feel that it's, irresponsible to play these things for laughs. I don't think there's anything funny about a lot of the stuff here. And then also to touch on them so lightly that one could argue that it borders on irresponsible. Like, if you're going to go there, you need to go there, in my opinion. Also, if someone put a team together of Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, Ed Gein, that's who Norman Bates is based on, and much worse in real life, and John Wayne Gacy, you just couldn't root for them, no matter how well the movie was made. And I thought way too often the movie slipped into that territory, where that's really kind of what I felt I was watching. Now, as I said, the film is incredibly well made. It's extremely well made. From a craft perspective, it's flawless. From the directing to the cinematography to the VFX. So good. James Gunn has a ton of clever, thrilling visuals here. And some of them are just downright gorgeous. The rain, that was gorgeous. Some of the jokes, as we know from the trailers, are not great, but you've actually seen pretty much all the jokes in the film. The soundtrack is also very well used. We start with a Johnny Cash song. I had such high hopes at that point. I was like, oh man, this is going to be good. The soundtrack is very well used, much like Guardians of the Galaxy. This is very Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like through James Gunn's, I think, true sensibilities without Marvel holding him back. And some of you will think that that's fantastic. So again, as I said, it's an issue of taste. The script, well, you can see I have some issues with it, but it does feature some very clever twists. It plays with time in an interesting way, and it handles a very large cast very nicely. And I think it gives almost every character their due. The first act is thrilling in moments and how it sets everything up. I was like, oh, this could be pretty cool. At that point, I still felt maybe pretty good about it. And the third act, while the most vile, was also, I think, the most interesting, dynamic-wise. And it's some of my favorite moments in the third act. Also, some of the characters finally get their hero on in the third act, and that made them more likable. The acting is excellent across the board. Everybody delivers exactly what is asked of them in a very strong manner. Very, very good. And I like some of the characters quite a bit. Some of them I did not like, but let's start with the ones who I did. Idris Elba's Bloodsport. The man can do anything. He just oozes cool. He looked so great in his uniform. He was fantastic. Every single moment he was on screen, I'm like, why is he not a movie star? He really should be. David Dastmalchian's Polka Dot Man. Oh, wow. Very interesting take on his powers and visually stunning. They were very cool. I would never imagine you could do so much with Polka Dot Man, but James Gunn did. Although, I thought his dynamic with his mother, while intentionally disturbing, it came across as a bit misogynistic. A lot in the way that it was, Quentin Tarantino made it seem okay that Brad Pitt murdered his wife. I just want to explain it, because some people just don't get it. I think that there's something that some guys do that if a woman disagrees with them, I mean, Polka Dot Man's mother did some horrible things in the movie, without a doubt. But I think there's a flavor to it that if a guy doesn't like something that a woman does or says, it's okay to vilify her. And, there's the issues of perspective and opinion. And there's just, I think the way the mom was portrayed is just trying to be the most disgusting thing that they could come. It was, I don't know. It was just a feeling I had from it. I still love the character. Joel Kinnaman was much better here as Rick Flag. I actually liked him here. I thought he came across very much as a leader. And he has probably, I would say, one of, if not the best scenes of his career in the third act. I mean, I have to like his performance for that alone. And what a breakthrough performance for Daniela Melchior. She and her right-hand rat, Sebastian, actually made me feel not so bad about rats, which is incredible. And she has one flashback scene with Taika Waititi, which was incredibly brief, but was by far and away one of, if not the most powerful moments in the film. It was, and what it said, I mean, that was great. That was just stunning. So good. Pete Davidson, he's hardly in the movie at all, but when he is, he does a fantastic job. And he is just an excellent fit with the Suicide Squad brand. I thought he should have been able to, they should have given him more to do. He was very good. Now, here's who I did not care for. John Cena's Peacemaker. Whoa, what a disaster. Not only as a character, but I think as a career choice for John Cena. This character was absolutely not only disgusting, but disturbing and irredeemable. Like, I can't believe he's getting his own show. He is who I would think would be the last character to get a spin-off show off of this movie. By the time the movie was over, I absolutely hated him. I just hated him. And I'm really curious to see how John Cena's fans react to him playing this character. If I was his agent, I'd be like, I would not touch this. I would not do this. This is a mistake for you. It's just appalling. So appalling. All right. All right, it has to be seen to be believed, because you won't believe that John Cena is willing to do the horrible things that they have Peacemaker do. Then, with both Harley Quinn and King Shark, I much prefer the animated versions, who are fantastic, by the way. I love that show. Here, they're both portrayed as really stupid, which I really do not care for. And I was disappointed, so disappointed to see that Harley Quinn once again is defined by how the opposite sex sees her, with some weird Prince and the Showgirl routine that they decided to do. Harley Quinn is not supposed to be a twisted version of Marilyn Monroe, and this is the second time that it's been done. It's not the right path to go down, and it just shows a basic misunderstanding of the character. Also, Harley has taken so much abuse from men at this point, she is ready to try something different and fall in love with Poison Ivy in the DCEU. And I will be very upset if that is the next step for the character. I mean, if anything good were to come of this movie, it's that she's ready. I think that Poison Ivy would be so wonderful for her to meet right now. They've teed her up. She's ready to go. And I'm upset that the DCEU won't do that. I'm so happy that the animated series has taken that step. Harley Quinn has some nice moments here, she does, but she disappears for very long periods of the film, even though she has been sold as one of its leads. Harley Quinn, to be fair, is an extremely difficult character to get right. They still haven't been able to do it in the comic, and so many writers have tried at this point. They just can't get it right. But the animated series has gotten it right. I can't wait. The comic, I think, comes out this month. They have a spin-off comic as well. And I really wish they would bring in that writing team to handle her live action appearances going forward, because this is just getting ridiculous. We're 3 movies in. Viola Davis is Amanda Waller. Now that surprised me, because at the beginning of the film, she was absolutely fantastic. I was like, wow, what a power player. But in the third act, talk about misogynistic, I don't know why they chose to do this. She was so humiliated, and she took it, that I was shocked. Amanda Waller would never take what happens to her. I mean, I guess maybe you could argue that she'll get her revenge after, but it just seems so out of character to me. I mean, she's a villain for sure. She's still a villain, as she should be. But I just was shocked. And I wonder if it would have been done to a male character. I just was really upset about that. And oh yeah, Starro. So disgusting. So horrifying. Like, wow. Like, I'm familiar with Starro from the comics, but this is like eons beyond that. I mean, Starro is problematic from all points. It brings a lot of the political commentary. I think there's a lot of it is just not, I think, played out the way it should be. They have turned up the grotesqueness of the character up to an 11. Not only the way it looks, but, in the comics, if you get a star on your face, they can pry it off and you'll be okay. Let's just say that's not the case here. Some of the things I will not be able to unsee. And I think they might have ruined Starro. All right, so as I told you, as I reported to you before, at one point, I believe before James Gunn even came along, back when, I forget the name of the director. He did the Ben Affleck movie, which I liked quite a bit. He was going to do this. And at one point, Warner Brothers was considering having Supergirl be the weapon that was locked up here that the Suicide Squad was supposed to liberate or whatever. And I think that would have been a much better idea. I think Starro, just opened up a whole can of starfish that I don't think this movie needed. So I saw this film in IMAX, and if you choose to go to see it in theaters, I think that is 100% the way to go. Otherwise, if you want to see it, I'd watch it on HBO Max. I mean, unless you're like a hardcore fan, then yeah, go. I mean, you just try it. I mean, I certainly wouldn't dissuade anyone. I mean, I've told you what the movie's like, and you decide for yourself whether or not it's something you want to try. Or you might even think it sounds fantastic. Then by all means, have a great time. Again, I don't care either way, but that's just how I feel about the film. It also has 2 end credit scenes, very brief, and they're both totally non-consequential. For the film, I mean, one kind of sets up the Peacemaker thing, but not in a way that's at all, there's nothing to discuss. So, and it doesn't tie into the DCEU in a larger way at all. So if people see this movie multiple times, and I know some of you already are, it's just because you like the film, which is awesome. I'm so glad that you do. All right, so that's my non-spoiler review of The Suicide Squad. Share your thoughts down below. Please try to be as polite as I have been. Subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.